But the reality is the world changed on that September 11th, 2001 day that was a spectacular day, and I whispered in his ear, a second plane hit the second tower, America is under attack.
A reminder to our viewers, you'll be able to see President George W. Bush's campaign stop. We'll have live coverage coming up later today in the Situation Room, 6 p.m. Eastern. While George W. Bush has stayed out of the race until now, his name was invoked plenty of times at Saturday night's Republican presidential debate. Senator Marco Rubio offered praise, but Donald Trump fired insults, blaming the former president for the U.S. not being prepared for the 9/11 attacks and for the war in Iraq. Jeb Bush fired back, but that didn't stop Trump. Listen to this.
I am sick and tired of him going after my family. My dad is the greatest man alive in my mind. While Donald Trump was building a reality TV show, my brother was building a security apparatus to keep us safe, and I'm proud of what he did. And he's had the gall to go after my mother.
The World Trade Center came down during your brother's reign.
Remember
that.
All right, let's discuss. Joining us now from Manchester, New Hampshire is Andrew Card. He was the former White House Chief of Staff under President George W. Bush. He's now the president of Franklin Pierce University. Andy Card, thanks very much for joining us. I want to get your reaction to the Trump attacks that we heard Saturday night at that debate. He basically said that 9/11, you could blame President Bush because there were warnings. He didn't do anything about it to prevent 9/11 from happening. What's your reaction to that?
That denies the reality of the situation. I was there, and I did read the intelligence, and I did know about al-Qaeda. I did know about Osama bin Laden, and no one took the expectation that there was going to be a plane used as a weapon of mass destruction on September 11th, 2001. It did happen, and President Bush demonstrated phenomenal discipline and great leadership to guide our country after that attack. And it was an attack. It wasn't just a terrorist attack. It was a massive attack on this country. And George W. Bush did a phenomenal job of providing strong leadership. He rallied the world. He didn't do it to make friends. He did it to protect us. And the effort that he put into gaining the respect of our allies, gaining the admiration of the neutrals, and introducing fear to our enemies was very critical. And he did a very good job of uniting the country in that effort. And he did put the infrastructure in place to protect us. And we've been very fortunate that infrastructure has been there.
The argument that Trump makes, and others make it as well, is that in the months leading up to 9/11, there were intelligence reports of bin Laden determined to attack the United States. In the United States, the president had that daily briefing in Texas during the summer leading up to 9/11. But you guys never connected the dots, could never figure out what was going on. What do you say to that argument?
Well, it is true that during the previous administrations to George W. Bush, the government had put barriers between the FBI and the CIA and some other intelligence agencies, so it was very difficult to be able to find the dots, never mind connect them. And that was addressed by the reforms that were put in place after 9/11, and President Bush led that reform effort. It was very critically important that President Bush provide the leadership that he did. He did it. It didn't fit with the priority that he had when he ran for office. He thought he was going to be talking about restoring our economy, which he also did, and leaving no child behind in education, which he tried to do. But the reality is the world changed on that September 11th, 2001 day that was a spectacular day, and I whispered in his ear, a second plane hit the second tower, America is under attack. That's when the President of the United States had to step up and keep the oath of office that he took. And this is about picking a president right now, and I want to have a president that will have the courage to protect us, to make the tough decisions that must be made, and I'm convinced Jeb Bush is the right person to do that. And I believe that it's not the issues that you debate right now in a primary campaign or even in a general election campaign are necessarily going to be the issues that a president will face. I witnessed a president making the tough decisions that had to be made when you couldn't have anticipated the challenge. And that's why I think Jeb and his background qualify him to be president.
The other argument that Trump makes as far as the war in Iraq is concerned, the war that started in March 2003, while you were White House Chief of Staff, President Bush was President of the United States, was that there was evidence that there may have been some weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, but there was a lot of evidence suggesting there wasn't. It wasn't clear cut, and that the war turned out to be a disaster. He basically said, very bluntly, that President Bush lied about that. Your response?
Well, first of all, most of the world, in fact, I'm not aware of anyone in the world at that time that didn't believe Saddam Hussein either had weapons of mass destruction or could constitute them quite quickly. There was a debate about so what? Would he do it? And then the French didn't think he would do anything. But the world thought that he had weapons of mass destruction. After all, he had used them on his own people. He also was not complying with the United Nations. 16 times he was given a chance to comply with the United Nations. He didn't do it. There should be consequences to that. President Bush put a coalition together that challenged Saddam Hussein to do the right thing. He still refused to do it. And the coalition that President Bush led brought a consequence to Saddam Hussein. And that was important. It did change the world. We did not find weapons of mass destruction. We did find a world that was challenged and troubled, and we're still living with that challenge and trouble. I think President Bush exercised phenomenal courage by putting a surge in place that helped us do much better in that war against Iraq and created a climate where a government could be installed there and start to work towards peace. And then President Obama let that whole situation attrit to the point that we now have ISIS, and that's a challenge, and that's why Jeb Bush would be good president, because he sees both sides of it. He saw the work that George W. Bush did, and he saw the work that Barack Obama didn't do, and I think he'll put a good plan together. He announced that in South Carolina. Go back and read the speech. It was a very good speech. Very
quickly, because Jeb Bush now says, with hindsight, the war was a mistake. The U.S. should not have invaded Iraq. You agree with him?
You know, again, you don't have that luxury. You have to deal with the cards you're dealt. At the time, I was confident that President Bush was doing the right thing. I still think he exercised the right kind of leadership, but the weapons of mass destruction have not shown up. I still think Saddam Hussein was a menace to the world, and if we hadn't gone in, I think he would have been even a greater menace and might have complicated the situation much more significantly, especially for our great allies in the region that were, and still should be, Israel and the Saudi Arabian government and the responsible leadership in the Middle East that was also not comfortable with Saddam Hussein's leadership. So it was much bigger than just the weapons of mass destruction. And remember, Saddam Hussein had a chance to be an ally in the war on terror, and he never stepped up and said that he would be.
Andy Card is the former White House Chief of Staff under President George W. Bush. Andy Card, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you, Wolf.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mike. This is my YouTube page, Mox News. Thanks for tuning in. All right, I'm off a little bit. I lost a filling yesterday. I have to go to the dentist in the morning, so man, it's like that for me. That's like alien abduction thing, really and truly. Last time I was there, we started talking about alien abduction, and I told him that I had a dream about being abducted by an alien, and and that they were wearing, all the aliens were wearing blue coats. And then I realized that the dentist and his assistant were wearing blue coats, and it was like this really weird Twilight Zone moment thing. So you guys know, that's what I'm looking forward to tomorrow. But I digress. I needed to respond to Andy Card because he's such a douche, in complete denial, and the media, even though Wolf had to ask him a question twice about, you know, is it fair, you know, he denies everything, and I'll give you an example of that in a second. But I don't know what kind of weirdo calls 9/11, the attacks of September 11th, spectacular. Okay, because that's not right. That's a sick person. It's not right. It's not right. Unless, of course, you were behind it and you're like, hey, we got it, man. We got everybody's attention. The whole world saw it happen. It was spectacular. They'll never forget it. That's one sick motherfucker. Incomplete denial when you listen to him talk. Oh, Bush completely turned around the economy. Anyways, I digress. Again, another thing that bothered me greatly about this piece of video was that CNN says, oh, basically Trump is saying that it's George Bush's fault for September 11th attacks. And that's not what Trump said. Over and over again in the press conference today, which you can see on the Alternate Mox News YouTube page. You can see the full press conference. Over and over again, he was asked about it. And he said, all I'm saying is you can't say that George Bush kept us safe when we had the biggest terrorist attack in our history on his watch. Oh, he's not saying it was his fault, but it happened on his watch. So in reality, what really happened wasn't keeping us safe. Duh. Any idiot moron can understand that. Okay, and this thing about him being in complete denial, when he says no one thought that Saddam didn't have weapons of mass destruction, he's number one, he's a huge fucking liar, because there was millions of people in the streets, okay? There was millions of people in England marching in the streets. There was millions of people in France marching in the street. In Germany, marching in the street. In America, millions of people marching in the street. In fact, they had giant anti-war protests in which people said they don't have chemical weapons over and over again right outside the White House in Washington, D.C. And for them to sit there, you know, for this guy who's supposed to be an informed human being to lie to continue to lie to us, and CNN, you know, not call him out on it, not say, you know, you're still lying about this. I mean, why else would you put them in place, CNN, other than to say, no, we're finally going to hold you accountable? You know, better late than never, Blitzer. Get your ass on the job. Okay, if you want to see the South Carolina debate, it's posted on the Alternate Mox News YouTube page. If you'd like to see Donald Trump's press conference from today, the complete press conference, it's posted on the Alternate Mox News YouTube page. You will find a clickable link to the Alternate Mox News YouTube page in the text body of this video, which is located directly under this video on the YouTube page. It's a little box that says show more, and it says right there, it says Alternate Mox News YouTube page. Click here. It'll take you right there. Please go and subscribe. It's another easy way to show support to my work, to let me know that you are interested in me spending all this time to put up a 43-minute press conference or a 2-hour debate or whatever it is. Because right now this YouTube page is limited on video length to 15 minutes. So, and it's going to be that way for a while. So the sooner you get over there, the better. I'll keep posting here though, because this is where you guys are at. So, but I can only post 15-minute videos. So we understand each other. Thank you all for your continued support. One of these days, we're going to put these motherfuckers in the gallows. That'll be a day when we can all feel spectacular. That will be a spectacular day. Thank you again.